I seriously think Apple did it again, but this time with the products I least expected. Let me explain.
This is it.
Let's set back the clock to January 29, 2008. Steve Jobs pulls out a full laptop from a manila envelope and gets this reaction from the audience.
This is the new MacBook Air, and you can get a feel for how thin it is.
I know, the first MacBook Air wasn't perfect. It got a lot of mixed reviews, but you have to admit it did become the future of the laptop. The unibody design that made it possible is pretty much how most laptops have been designed ever since, so that was disruption one. Now fast forward to November 10, 2020, Apple's M1 chips caught so many of us off guard that I personally didn't even understand the charts I saw on the screen. It took Qualcomm 3 generations to sort of catch up, as compatibility is still an issue, and if AMD already had Intel struggling, this was the last nail on the coffin that eventually led to some government investment. That was disruption number 2, and I'm going to call March 4th, 2026 as disruption number 3 with the MacBook Neo, and sure, also the M5 Pro and M5 Max chips. Seriously, I was prepared to do a typical tech briefing to cover the news yesterday, but the more I look into the numbers, the more I realize how important these last few days have been. So, I'm Jaime Rivera, and it's time for Tech Briefing Special Edition. So yeah, 3 days of Apple events. It started with the iPhone 17e and M4 iPad Air, which I did cover on a tech briefing earlier this week, so have a look at that there. I think the reason why you should care about Apple's new M5 Pro and M5 Max chips is because the company isn't just changing their design strategy and naming, they're also boosting specifications in a way that just makes it really hard for any company to compete. Intel's latest higher-end chips, for example, were barely catching up with the base M5, and well, there goes that. The M5 Pro and M5 Max introduce an all-new Fusion architecture that significantly changes how Apple builds its silicon. Instead of relying on a single chip die, Apple now connects two third-generation 3nm dies into one unified system on a chip using advanced packaging. This high-bandwidth, low-latency connection allows the two dies to operate as if they were one single chip, dramatically increasing performance and efficiency. The new architecture also introduces an 18-core CPU made up of 6 powerful supercores and 12 newly designed performance cores, because yeah, what we knew as efficiency cores are now being renamed. Apple says the supercore is the highest performance core design yet, delivering the world's fastest single-thread performance, while the new performance cores are optimized for better power efficiency and stronger multi-threaded workloads used in professional tasks. I know a ton of people that still love their M1 Max, but this new chip design makes the M5 Max up to 2.5 times faster. Once you look at Apple's new MacBook Pros running the M5 Pro and M5 Max platform, consider the competition just got complicated. I mean, the base M5 MacBook Pro that launched months ago starts at $60.99, and if that chip is either an equal or superior to Intel's latest chip, the Lenovo ThinkPad that competes directly is around $300 more expensive and $600 if you go for the Yoga Pro. So when you look at the base M5 Pro that already has a superior chip, plus 24 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of starting storage, which is now twice as fast, plus Thunderbolt 5, plus Apple's N1 chip that supports Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 6, along with all the features you already knew from the MacBook Pro, though now with new voice isolation and wide spectrum microphone modes, I mean, it's already hard to compete with that. Seriously, all that alone is more than enough, but you can totally just show off with the M5 Max. It starts with 36 gigs of RAM, 2 terabytes of storage, and sure, it is a hefty $35.99 starting price, but do the math for any higher-end gaming laptop, and the M5 Max is not just cheaper in most cases, but also far more compact. I'd say the updates to Apple's new MacBook Air were less disruptive, but honestly more essential. Apple didn't just bestow it with its M5 chip on a fanless architecture, which alone is enough to make Intel's higher-end offerings look bad. I mean, M5 is already 4 times faster than M4 in certain tasks, and that's mainly because the new GPU now features neural accelerators on every core, along with higher memory bandwidth. Seriously, for AI tasks, it's really hard to beat this little machine according to these numbers. Maybe the most interesting is that Apple finally gives you a base model with enough storage at 512 gigs, and by the way, that solid-state drive is also at double the speed, and now with a maximum configuration of up to 4 terabytes. The company has also added its N1 wireless chip to the MacBook Air with Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 6, and you still get two size options at 13 and 15 inches. It offers up to 24 hours of battery life, and in the box you even get Apple's new 40 to 60 watt dynamic power adapter, which we saw debut along with the iPhone 17 launch. It did kind of get more expensive at $1099, but it makes sense given double the storage. But then guys, as for the main event, then comes the affordable MacBook, just completely out of left field. Apple's MacBook Neo isn't just the company's least expensive laptop ever, I also consider it to be its boldest statement. If you wanted to buy Lenovo's latest Chromebook Plus, for example, it retails for around $700. If you were to try to buy any Windows laptop for even $700, you're most likely getting cheap plastic as well and underpowered chips. So when Apple showed the $599 price tag, it's almost like when Steve Jobs announced the first iPad for just $499 at a time when everyone thought it would cost thousands of dollars. Some of us speculated $899, which was the original retail price of the 11-inch MacBook Air back in 2010, but nope. $600 for a MacBook is just insane once you consider what you're getting. For example, the reason why it matters is because while Apple's A18 chip launched with last year's iPhone 18 Pro, numbers already show it's as good or better than Apple's M1. And guys, my daughter still uses her M1 MacBook Air for making music videos on her channel, and she loves using it. Zero complaints nearly 6 years later. That's about all I need to know to consider that it won't just be a Chromebook rival. And then there's the fact that it's made of a gorgeous aluminum unibody, which throws all the direct Windows competition out the window, pun intended. It's a 13-inch liquid retina display, pretty much like the MacBook Air, 1080p camera, dual speakers on the side, dual microphones, a full Magic Keyboard with multi-touch trackpad, Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 6, 2 USB-C ports, and fun color options in silver, blush, citrus, and indigo, which I'd call my favorite. So yeah, you're giving up MagSafe, there's no backlit keyboard, you're giving up Thunderbolt speeds, there's only one RAM option at 8 gigs, which might sound low, though again, I use my daughter's experience with an 8GB of RAM M1 to tell you it'll be just fine. It starts at 256 gigs of storage, which is okay as well, but if you pay an extra Benjamin, that doesn't just double to 512 gigs, but you also get Touch ID on the keyboard. Battery life is then 16 hours, which is actually closer than I expected to the MacBook Air. So yeah, if you think of it, for $5 to $699, it would be ridiculous for me to recommend any other computer to anyone. It's almost as if Apple wants to say checkmate. Now it's not just the battle of speed, performance, and efficiency. The company that was once known for the most expensive computers is now disrupting in value in both the low end with the Neo and even the higher end with the MacBook Pro. If anything, yeah, I wish Apple would simply copy the old 12-inch MacBook design for the Neo, but that's just me being nostalgic. In today's question, let me know, would you buy Apple's new MacBook Neo? Because in my case, I don't necessarily think it's the computer for me, but seriously, thank you, Apple, for making this a no-brainer upgrade for my kids and pretty much the rest of my family. I seriously think this is the best laptop for most people. I'm curious to know what you think in the comments. Friends, again, thank you so much for joining on this special edition of Tech Briefing. Please like, subscribe, and join the conversation in the comments, as you've seen me try to respond to as many as I can. Also, follow me on social media as more behind-the-scenes work continues to happen there. I have so many products that are being tested right now, so stay tuned. Guys, our Technically There podcast with Josh is also returning very soon, so stay tuned. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.